So, WWE finally released their WrestleMania behind the curtain, behind the scenes documentary about this year's WrestleMania. There's been like a ton of delays. I think was supposed to come out right after WrestleMania, but it, for whatever reason, we don't know why it was delayed. You could sort of maybe speculate as to why it was delayed so long. I guess it's sort of irrelevant at this point because the thing is out. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's an hour long. I really enjoyed it, and I'd recommend it to anybody who was really interested in the behind-the-scenes stuff at WrestleMania. Look, obviously, and I think maybe you could speculate as to why it took so long, because they wanted to make sure that the narrative they wanted out there about the collaborative nature of the main event scene for WrestleMania this year was portrayed in a certain way, in a collaborative way, as opposed to maybe perhaps what it could have been a bit more contentious than was described in the documentary. There's no way to know that until Brian Gewirtz or Bruce Pritchard or, I don't know, Michael Hayes or even Triple H writes a book down the line. And even in that case, you're getting like one side of the story. So who knows what the actual like real life phone calls were like with this kind of thing. But one thing that did strike me, and again, maybe I'm being a little too optimistic, not being so cynical in thinking that everybody's just out for their own nut, is The Rock. So basically the what happens is you got The Rock, and it's kind of just how it played out. You got The Rock making a deal with WWE, with Nick Khan, with the people at Endeavor. And then and that deal is sort of like, hey, let's do something big for WrestleMania. And I think sort of maybe even the unspoken thing at the time was Rock going to main event WrestleMania probably against Roman Reigns. They alluded to it on the Young Rock show on TV. But meanwhile, you've got this story with Cody Rhodes taking place, which is being basically spearheaded by like Triple H, probably Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. And of course, Cody Rhodes is along for the ride. And so you've got these like two things happening, and then they sort of collide where it's like, oh, okay, well, Rock's here. We got to do this. There's a great part where Triple H, and I really appreciate this about Triple H, where he says, you know, maybe if you take a look at it from the perspective of what's a bigger business deal, what's a bigger sort of thing for the casual fan, for the people on the outside looking in, then yeah, Rock Roman's a bigger deal. But for the people who've been sticking with the story, it's Cody versus Roman. And you can tell that's where Triple H is sort of leaning towards. You could see that's his angle. Let's do Cody. And that's why he's still, even though he tells Cody on the day of the Rumble, Rock is going to get that main event spot. But you're still going to win the Rumble, and then we'll just figure it out. He sort of leaves it to, he sort of gambles. This could have blown up in his face pretty easily, but he gambles. He puts Cody in the spot to win the Rumble, and then just see how it plays out. And then they do the deal where Cody looks like he's got the hangdog look when he gives his spot over to The Rock. And at that point, and you gotta wonder if, that's sort of the big if. Like Cody's performance that night still is like, well, not into this very much. Brian Gewirtz in an interview recently, or a couple months ago anyway, said that Cody is a guy who's just really too honest. He's too genuine. He can't put on that kind of performance. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's totally true. I don't know. But in any event, he just sold the crap out of, I don't like this. I'm not huge on this. And then the people picked up on that, and they showed a bunch of streamers reacting to it. And then, you know, the hashtag happens and all that kind of stuff. And so you see then when they have to pivot. Now, I don't know if the delays in this documentary was to get that narrative right or not. Again, you could speculate. But to his credit, and let's be honest here, look, it's entirely possible that you had, I don't know, Triple H, maybe to a degree Nick Khan, but he's the guy who brought Rock in. Maybe there was some convincing from Triple H, Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman to the guys above The Rock, Ari Emanuel, but him and The Rock are super close. In any event, The Rock paints it as we can proceed to one of two ways. We truck through it, which is a very Vince McMahon thing. I mean, you can think of like on one hand how many times the crowd dissatisfaction took over and we got Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. But otherwise, Roman Reigns from 15 to 2018 trying to be shoved down our throats as like this baby face that nobody bought into. That's a very Vince McMahon thing. Just truck through it. That you know what they want better than they know what they want. And The Rock said, we could do that, but my gut tells me that the way to go is Cody Rhodes, and then we figure it out. And there was an interesting bit where Cody asked Triple H, what am I supposed to do at WrestleMania? And Triple H said, I don't know. We got to figure that out. And it seems like, because that was the big question. What the hell was Cody Rhodes going to do? And Brian Gordon recently said it would piss off the fans as to what he would do, which is either miss WrestleMania, be an enforcer. The overbook finish to the end would involve Cody Rhodes, but he wouldn't have a match. Who knows? But the idea is there were so many moving pieces, and Triple H was basically seeing where everything was going to land before figuring out what to do with Cody. So in Triple H's head, maybe that was never solid, or maybe he had several ideas, but he never had to pull the trigger on him because of the backlash from the fans, and then The Rock acquiescing and saying, okay, I'm stepping back. And then, of course, we got what we got. And honestly, the narrative that was painted here is that, honestly, when you see the behind the scenes stuff where Triple H genuinely seems to enjoy working with The Rock. Yeah, I kind of feel like at this point in his life, Triple H having to deal with everything he dealt with Vince, he knows how to roll with the situation. He knows how to deal with circumstance, and he would have made the best of it had The Rock insisted and everybody above him insisted, no, we're going to go Rock Roman this year. I'm sure Triple H probably would have been fine with that and would have rolled with it because of years of dealing with that shit with Vince McMahon. How many call-ups did Triple H have to deal with Vince McMahon simply burying that Triple H had put so much work into? Vince would just treat him like dog shit. And so he does have a very cool head about this. And when you see every sort of backstage, fly on the wall camera bit, he seems to genuinely, thoroughly enjoy working with The Rock. He just likes cool moments. Even when Rock comes backstage after the big Cody bit, which you'd think Triple H is like, man, I set this whole story up. He was like, man, that was badass. Now, maybe the cerebral assassin's thinking to himself, I'm already undermining this thing, so it's not gonna work. But maybe after that moment, he had the confidence that there's going to be a backlash here. And who knows, maybe that stuff was generated. Maybe this entire thing was generated. I don't know. But in any event, Rock goes to his bosses and he says something that made me laugh. And he says, man, Rock 10.0 is going to be the final boss. I'm like, what the fuck is Rock 10.0? I'd rather have that guy than the final boss, Rock 10.0. But apparently that is the final boss. And of course, I love the final boss stuff. It got huge reactions. Rock seemed to thoroughly enjoy it. And it seems, honestly, like it's funny because, for the people out there who really wanted to see Rock versus Roman this year, hey, I get it. And I want to see that match too. But from a storytelling perspective, assuming Rock has a couple more matches in him, and goddamn, he went all 45 minutes in that night one main event. You'd think that the guy has got those matches left in him. The way they tell their stories now at such a methodical pace. When Paul Heyman last year said we're only in the bottom of the third, or we're just finishing the third inning, you do Roman Cody year one, Rock Cody year two, and then you finish the trilogy of the story with Rock Roman year three. God damn. Then you're telling, that's an epic length story right there. That has never been done and will never be done again, you would think, something of that magnitude. it's like once in a lifetime, but for 3 years straight, and it's not the same damn match every time. It seems like that story, and who knows? Maybe, dude, look, maybe if we had Rock Roman this year and Cody had to go another year, I don't know if the fan base would have really wanted that or would have held on to that. I'm not sure what else you could do with Cody Rhodes in that second year, second full year getting back there. And at that point, have you lost the benefit of the doubt with the fans because they're just not going to believe it? And maybe they won't care anymore, but you have this opportunity to basically make the next guy in Cody Rhodes because he's there all the time. And whether you like him or not, the proof is in the pudding. Look at the kind of business they're doing right now. And there is a philosophy out there that would suggest the top guy, Cody Rhodes, is sort of like the spearheading, sort of a feature of that. I personally think it's more of a ensemble situation where, number one, the stories are really good, and number two, there is just a wealth of really good characters. Understanding back in 98, it was Stone Cold Steve Austin leading the way, and I know he sold a lot of shirts, but I don't know, he wasn't everybody's favorite. There is a wealth of characters there, and he was only in so many segments, but there was a wealth of characters and a bunch of stories being told that people really latched onto. In my personal opinion, I think it's not one guy. I think it's the entire organization, and it's the stories you're telling, and it's the characters involved. That being said, the credit goes to the guy on top. If Cody Rhodes was a shitty babyface and nobody cared about the guy, then the business probably wouldn't be where it's at right now. I think a case could be made for that as well. But regardless, in my opinion, they made the right move. I thought this documentary was pretty interesting. I do think that, yeah, maybe, who knows, maybe there was more of a power struggle. Maybe there was more. But the fact that Rock, and I thoroughly believe Rock had the power to get that changed, to have that Rock versus Roman. Now, whatever convincing was done, or whoever got in his ear, or whatever assurances were made, I don't know. But goddamn, it ended up, they did a whole recap of both WrestleMania main events. And goddamn, that was such a fun 2-night WrestleMania, especially both main events. So I don't think any mistakes were made. And it is very interesting that, as Triple H says, through chaos, you come up with, something gold. I'm paraphrasing. I know he said the word chaos. I forget the rest. But no, it's a really entertaining documentary. A couple small observations here that I noticed. Triple H is hilariously enthralled with entrances. And we all know this. This goes back. But I remember seeing footage of him directing entrances in NXT. And now he's doing the same thing when he was directing Roman's entrance, moving the orchestra in a certain way so that Roman can come out, and then showing The Rock that stupid rock sign that all lit up in fire, which was kind of cool, but not as cool as Triple H made it out to be. It honestly is so fun to watch somebody who so thoroughly understands what pro wrestling can be on the biggest possible level in the most dramatic possible way, which in my personal opinion is the most entertaining version of pro wrestling. And that's Triple H. And seeing everything he goes through and everything he's already been through, but seeing him execute this fully and totally is such a fun sight to see. You can tell the guy has been through this shit. And so now, even when there's a situation where Rock shows up and it's like, okay, well, we got Rock Roman, it didn't seem to bother Triple H necessarily. It's just, okay, well, let's see how this plays out. And then we'll go and I'll put in everything I can to make this the best thing I possibly can. Who knows what the real story is? Maybe one day there will be some more journalism going on where some, beat reporter will get the real scoop on what happened. But in terms of this documentary, and even it shows clips of Rock extensively directing his own entrance, and then Triple H shows up and he's making sure that everything's okay. It's really fascinating. It's really interesting stuff to see them do all that stuff. And yeah, I thought it was really cool. I hope that they do more documentaries like this, but this obviously is a unique situation. And hopefully they do understand that. And I think they do that. Number one, the idea of using night one to motivate stuff that happens on night two of WrestleMania, and now that SummerSlam is going to be 2 nights. I think that's a really terrific idea. Obviously, New Japan was doing that in the first place. But I thought that was a really cool idea. And I hope that they take that to heart and understand that now that's a new toy that they can have to play with. That's a new, storytelling device that they can use. But yeah, no, I thought it was really well done. It didn't come off as schlocky. Uh, Again, Roman Reigns was kind of like background material. It's just sort of interesting that Roman, and there was one moment that stood out to me where it was after Rock came back from the sad Cody segment, and Roman has this really really big cheesy grin on his face, hugging the Rock, and as soon as he turns around, he goes into serious mode. I personally think, and I want you guys to let me know what you think in the comments below, Roman Reigns was one of the guys politicking for Cody to get that spot in the main event. To me, that makes so much sense, even though, and Roman probably knows, hey, we'll get this match down the line, but this year it's got to be Cody. I think Roman and Heyman probably understood more than anybody, except for Triple H, how important it was for Cody to win this year, because the main event of everything is going to end up being Roman versus Rock 2 years from now, after Cody versus Rock main events next year. That's my personal theory. That's my conspiracy Steve hat on. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what you guys thought about this review. Hopefully you have a safe 4th of July. There was a kid down the street last year. He was legitimately a baseball prospect. He had his hand blown off because he was holding on to a firecracker too long. It was disgusting. I was at the bar down the street and somebody showed me video. Don't do that. All right? Don't mess around with the fireworks in a parking lot somewhere, and don't drink and drive, and be safe, and have a great time with your family, or if you're with your friends, have a great time, and then hopefully you'll join us for the big Money in the Bank watch along going down on Saturday over at the Steven Larson YouTube channel, youtube.com/Steven Larson, or over at the Twitch, twitch.tv/Steven Larson. Be safe. Good 4th of July. Unless you're international, just have a good weekend. See you guys around.